later edition of the Ben Garcia show, but still, the show must go on. What moves could follow a Bradley Beal buyout? I've crunched some numbers. I've looked at some names. It's more difficult than you think. So why in the world are the Phoenix Suns going ahead and buying out Bradley Beal? And then Albert Breer says that the Cardinals, no matter what, are going to move on from Kyler Murray, or at least in his opinion, making this a true make or break year. I'm here to tell you why. Kyler Murray, whether we like it or not, is likely going to be here in 2026. Let's go.
The Ben Garcia Show. Yeah. Woo. Best show in the land. Yup. Listen. Come and get your information from Ben Garcia. Get the latest on your quarterback, running backs, and receivers. Tune in, so any other show you don't need him. Any news that he giving out, please just believe him. Giving out the latest prediction and top-notch analysis. Wanna hear the truth? Better have thick skin like callus. The latest move that your team just made can be damaging. The dudes ain't speaking no facts, they just be rambling. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show. Go get the cameraman. Yeah. Lights, camera, action, turn on the show. Go get the cameraman. The Ben Garcia Show.
What is up? Welcome into yet another edition of the Ben Garcia Show. Thank you so much for continuing to make the Ben Garcia Show a part of your day. I apologize for being a little bit later this morning. That's just what happens. Sometimes you're dragging yourself out of bed and it just takes longer than expected to get a show on the road. We all have it. This is mine today, but that is not why you came here. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to this channel, The Ben Garcia Show, potentially even tell a friend, as well as get in on the conversation. Follow me on all social media platforms. On X, tell me why you love me, tell me why you hate me. On TikTok and on Instagram, at Ben Garcia Show. So believe it or not, we actually have a jam-packed show today, and I understand that oftentimes, especially in the late summertime, we don't really have those. But with the NFL season literally just around the corner, and some big Suns news still around the corner, we've got a decent amount of things to talk about today. It is not a subpar Ben Garcia show. So let's start here. Bradley Beal is going to be bought out. From what I've seen and from what I've heard, it's pretty much all but agreed upon. But again, that's not the point of it. That's not me trying to be like, oh, I know more than you. That's not the point of this. The point is very plainly, why are the Phoenix Suns buying out Bradley Beal? That's the only reason and the only question that should be answered on today's Ben Garcia show. And so I decided to crunch some numbers. The only reason why the Phoenix Suns would buy out Bradley Beal is because they have a corresponding move ready to make to strike. The reasoning why it doesn't make any sense to buy out Bradley Beal is because, yes, he's got $110 million still left on his deal. And that is a boatload of money for a guy that doesn't fit your team. And let's just call it what it is. Has been a big flop on your team ever since he came over from the Washington Wizards. But Beal is due $53 million this year. And next year he's going to be due $57 million. That is a total of $110 million. Here's what I would do in the Bradley Beal situation. I've seen some people say there's no point in saying this because it doesn't matter. The Suns are going to buy out Bradley Beal regardless. I want you to know where I stand on it. Buying out Bradley Beal without a corresponding move is probably the dumbest thing you could do if you're the Phoenix Suns. I don't understand hindering yourself, laying $20 million until 2030 to the side. To put that in perspective, I will be 32 years old when the Phoenix Suns are done paying off Bradley Beal. I'm currently 27. That is, hopefully, I have numerous kids by then. 2030 is a long ways away. And paying Bradley Beal that much crazy money is absolutely asinine. So they have to have a corresponding move ready. If the Phoenix Suns are moving off for Bradley Beal and don't have a corresponding move ready for Bradley Beal as soon as they let him go, it is a half-baked idea and just getting rid of a problem just to get rid of a problem that isn't necessarily hindering anything. You don't have to buy out Bradley Beal. You don't have to spread $20 million over the next 5 years just to make you feel better that he's not on the roster. You don't have to do any of that. But let's give the Suns the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there is a move being ready to be made as soon as Bradley Beal is let go by the Phoenix Suns. So let's go through a couple of them. Ultimately, the Suns would want to be dodging both the aprons, both the first and the second aprons, which would alleviate all restrictions, mostly from making a deal and making things easier for the Suns to get better. But you ask yourself, are they preparing for this year or next year? And if the Suns are preparing for free agency next year, why don't you just buy out Bradley Beal next year? Why don't you just write him a $57 million check to go away next year? And then at that point, he's off the books, or you trade his expiring deal. This is another thing to me that just drives me crazy. Bradley Beal coming off of an expiring deal of $57 million next year is like a gold mine. He turns from a negative asset to at least at minimum a normal asset. Like he's not positive, he's not negative, but he shifts all the way from negative to smack dab in the middle. And you might be able to get players back for Bradley Beal through a trade that could help you win. Or you could buy him out then. But this idea to just spread it over across 4 or 5 seasons is absolutely insane. Unless there's a corresponding move ready to happen as soon as they move on from Bradley Beal. And so you ask yourself, okay, let's look at the contracts that the Phoenix Suns have right now. What are some contracts they could aggregate together to move off of one Bradley Beal? So here's one really interesting enough. Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal is the most interesting in terms of what they could get back for Bradley, or what they could send out and get back in a trade for those two players. Always fun to sit there and sneeze for 5 seconds, so apologize for that, guys. But Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal make $27 million a year. Here are a few players that would make sense for the Phoenix Suns at $27 million a year to come and move over to the Phoenix Suns. Devin Vassell, Draymond Green, Nick Claxton, Trey Murphy, Mikal Bridges, Jaden McDaniels. That is 6 names that fit perfectly for the Phoenix Suns, each one of those guys. $27 million, you trade Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal and whatever assets you have to get one of those players. That does make sense. However, the Suns have the contracts to make those players work in a trade. Like, meaning that they have the money to send out between Royce O'Neal and Grayson Allen to go get one of those players. However, they don't have the assets necessary to attach to those players to get a Vassell, to get a Green, to get a Claxton, to get a Murphy, to get a Bridges, or a McDaniels. It's just not possible. And then you say to yourself, okay, maybe the Suns are looking at restricted free agency. There's no way they're going to be able to get Jonathan Kuminga or a player like Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey would make immense sense for this Suns team. I would trade Jalen Green for Josh Giddey because although I think Jalen Green can be a very good player in the NBA, it's not going to happen here because the fit is just atrocious between Booker and Green. Maybe there's a world where Jalen Green just needs to be a secondary scorer, and that is true. He's never had a scorer alongside him like Devin Booker. But these are the names that make sense in a deal. If you were to buy out Bradley Beal, this would be a corresponding move that would make sense by aggregating the salaries of Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal. Devin Vassell, Draymond Green, Nick Claxton, Trey Murphy, Mikal Bridges, and Jaden McDaniels all make $27 million or under. And you say to yourself, those guys are awesome, great. And then you think, you don't have the assets to go get those guys. So maybe the Suns are thinking smaller. What about Grayson Allen and Nick Richards? That's $21.875 million. Here are the guys that fit that mold. Marcus Smart, Norman Powell, who just got traded, so cross him off the list. Malik Monk, Rui Hachimura, Keldon Johnson. None of those guys are worth giving up multiple assets to bring them in. A wild card person that would make a lot of sense if you moved off from Beal and went and traded for this guy. Larry Markkinen makes a lot of sense on this Suns team. The Suns have wanted a stretch big, but let's call it what it is, guys. I love Larry Markkinen. I think he'd be awesome here. However, there's no world where the Suns have the assets to get this guy. If they don't have the assets to get Murphy or Bridges or McDaniels or Claxton, they don't have the assets to get this guy who scored 19 points a game last year, 42, 35, 88 splits. But the year before that, when he was an all-star, he shot 48% from the field. Holy cow. 40% from three and 90. He nearly shot 50, 40, 90 last season. That's the season I'd be looking at. So I'm going through all the options for when you move on from Bradley Beal. There is no corresponding move that makes sense. So if the Suns are just saving their pennies for next year, what do I care? What do I care? I'd rather keep Bradley Beal on this roster and buy him out next season, or just trade him for the expiring deal that he will be. I don't understand getting under the apron when I can't do any other moves to make it easier on myself to succeed later on. So I get people wanting to move on from Bradley Beal, but it seems like this is the growing concern. You want to move on from Bradley Beal. What's your plan? Because there is no one worth a damn who makes $27 million that you can combine the contracts of Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal to get you there, but you don't have the assets to bring those players in that are necessary to put in a deal with Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal. And I don't really want the Suns to trade Grayson Allen and Nick Richards and end up getting back a Malik Monk. That's not worth giving up assets for. So truly, I don't know what the Suns are thinking with this buyout. This 12 to 13 minute rant that I've done, I've ran through all the scenarios. It just doesn't make any sense. So if the Suns are going to buy out Beal, they should have a corresponding move ready. But whatever that move is going to be is likely not going to outweigh the negatives of having to pay Bradley Beal $20+ million a year not to be on the team. Or I guess I should say $19 million a year over the next 5 seasons to not be on the team. Yes, it opens up other avenues like being able to aggregate salaries, being able to trade your own picks, all those sorts of things. But one, the Suns don't have picks to trade, and Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal are kind of important factors to this team that you can't just give away in a deal unless you're getting someone back, but see plan A where you don't have the assets to do that. So I don't know what the Suns are thinking. Truly, I don't know what they're thinking with this Bradley Beal stuff. It doesn't really make any sense. If there's a world where they can make it happen, they can bring a corresponding move in, I'll change my opinion accordingly. But overall, what this looks like is trying to help the wallets of Mat Ishbia, and I have no interest in doing that. Just none. I understand why Matt would have interest doing it, but I don't. Okay. That is a really tricky situation when it comes to Bradley Beal. I have no idea how they're going to make that work. And then continuously, I just don't get it. All right, guys. Moving on to the Arizona Cardinals. Appreciate you guys continuing to stick around on this beautiful Tuesday, July 8th, as I'm just noticing right now that the date is wrong. Today is July 8th. Today is not July 6th, but that's okay. I make mistakes all the time, and just like myself, the Cardinals could be making a mistake as well. What do you mean by that? Well, pretty plainly this, and I apologize to you guys in the chat. I could have swore I made that an 8, but look at that. The Suns one isn't even correct either. Well, All right. Well, life happens. So let's move on to the Arizona Cardinals as I continue to scold the fact that I messed up my dates and that says 7:06 when it should say 7:08. So I apologize. This is not a rerun. This is a new edition of the Ben Garcia Show talking about the Arizona Cardinals. So yesterday, Albert Breer of, I believe he's Sports Illustrated, but again, it doesn't really matter, basically mentioned that this year is a make or break year for Kyler Murray, meaning they are going to move on from Kyler if they don't make the playoffs, if they don't win a game in the playoffs. Like, there are high expectations for Kyler Murray to succeed this season. And here's where I would agree with that. We are going to know by the end of this year about Kyler Murray. This is going to be the year we throw a judgment call on Kyler Murray. I am not going to be kind about my judgment of one Kyler Murray. If Kyler doesn't make it to the playoffs this year and doesn't look good doing it, if he's not consistent, if he doesn't win a playoff game, what are we even talking about anymore? Kyler Murray should not be the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals for the foreseeable future. However, as much as I would like to think that if Kyler Murray doesn't succeed this season, he will not be back next year, I don't think that's the case. When I say that this is a make or break year for Kyler Murray, I am talking about it in our sense, meaning we will know, yeah, this guy's not the guy, or yeah, this guy with a competent team around him, with smart coaches, can make a real run in the playoffs and potentially at some point be a Super Bowl contending team with Kyler Murray leading the charge. But we're going to know either that or Kyler Murray is not the guy for the Arizona Cardinals. And here's what I mean by that. As much as I would like to say that if Kyler Murray doesn't succeed this year, he's off the Arizona Cardinals. This is year 7, year 8 for Kyler Murray. To be fair, we should already know by now if Kyler Murray is what he is. And to be really honest with you, I'm leaning towards Kyler Murray is probably not the guy. Because it is year 7. It is year 8. He should have one playoff win by now. And his one playoff appearance shouldn't be the most disturbing playoff appearance you've ever seen for a starting quarterback. But I'm willing to listen to it and let Kyler have a little bit of time to figure it out. And part of that might be just fandom on my part, but also coaching has never really been consistent. Cliff Kingsbury was an incompetent buffoon. He just was here. Maybe he learned some things as the offensive coordinator over in Commander's land, and he's a better guy now. However, there was a lot of turbulence with Kyler Murray being the starting quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals under Cliff Kingsbury. He finally gets a fresh start, and they kind of had to hit the reset button. He tears his ACL. Like, there are some reason to believe that Kyler Murray might just be a really late bloomer. So I'm going to give it that chance for this season. But we will learn if Kyler Murray is the guy. And when Albert Breer says things like that the Cardinals are going to move on from Kyler if Kyler Murray doesn't succeed this season, and what does that look like for me? At least a playoff win. I don't know if the Cardinals are moving on from Kyler Murray regardless of what happens this season. Obviously, if Kyler Murray is awesome, he wins a playoff game, he's helpful to the team's success, he will continue to be the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, probably for the foreseeable future. However, if Kyler Murray has a really good first half and in the second half of the season falls flat on his face, I don't think we're talking about Kyler Murray not being the quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals next season. The Cardinals had a chance to draft their guy a couple of years ago when they were drafted 4th overall, where they selected Marvin Harrison Jr. They opted to select a wide receiver, then select a quarterback. Now, granted, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams were all off the board. You would probably gotten stuck with one of the 4th or 5th best quarterbacks in the draft. However, they chose to forego that. And go get Marvin Harrison Jr. It showed that they believed in Kyler. But because this Cardinals team is so talented at the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, with Kyler Murray being their quarterback, I don't see a world where they bottom out and they're a team that just never, that is losing 15 games a year and 14 games a year and 12 games a year, getting themselves in prime position to select a quarterback. The team is too talented for that. I mean, Garrett Williams is young. Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, Budda Baker's still very good. Jalen Thompson's very good. There's a bunch of players on this defensive line. So I don't see a world where the Cardinals are ever selecting high enough again to get a new quarterback. And that also leads me to believe the Cardinals can't just get off on Kyler Murray's deal next year. We all know Michael Bidwell is very cheap, and that's putting it nicely. But Kyler Murray's got a cap hit. Let's say the Cardinals decide they want to move on from Kyler Murray next year because the season just doesn't go as planned. He's got a cap hit of $53 million and then $43 million the following season. As much as I would agree with you that I would like Kyler Murray gone if this year is not a glowing success and start finding the new guy. This is why I continue to say the Cardinals should be ready to draft a quarterback in the later rounds. Second, third, I like Jackson Dart. He never fell that far. Maybe Shedeur Sanders, whatever, right? Don't be caught flat-footed. Because if the Arizona Cardinals are a disaster this year, I don't think it means they're just straight up moving off from Kyler Murray. We will know if Kyler Murray is the guy, and that is half the battle. But because his contract is so punitive, because you're talking about a cap hit next season of $53 million and the following season of $43 million with dead money of $60+ million total, it's not exactly an ideal world to cut a quarterback. I think the Cardinals will, if it doesn't work out this year, fire Drew Petzing before they get rid of Kyler Murray because the tax is so punitive, the cap hit is so punitive to just send him out the door. So we are talking about a world where the Arizona Cardinals will know if Kyler Murray is the guy. And again, we've talked about a little bit why we're giving him a little bit of more of a runway. However, I don't think it's just as easy as the Cardinals are moving off from him. I think that's a very difficult and hard decision to make. And with an owner like Michael Bidwell, I don't see the Cardinals just completely moving off from Kyler. I don't see it. It's $100+ million and a cap hit over 2 seasons. Or no, it's about $90+ million and a cap hit over 2 seasons. And it's over $60 million in dead money. Like that, I don't see the Cardinals just moving off from him. They'll draft a guy. Maybe they'll try to figure out how to move up in the draft. But I don't think it means Kyler Murray is not on this team for the foreseeable future. What I've always continued to talk about is it's a make or break season for Kyler Murray. It's a make or break season for Kyler Murray knowing if he's the guy. It's not just moving off from him. It's much more nuanced than that. And it's difficult and it's going to be a tough decision to make. And I don't foresee Michael Bidwell just moving off from him. So, as much as I understand that everyone would like to move on from Kyler, if it doesn't work out, and some people want to move on from him anyways, I don't think that's the case. I think the Cardinals are going to run it back next year with Kyler, regardless of what happens. But if it goes poorly, they're going to give you Drew Petzing's head on a platter and say, does this satisfy you? And you're going to say no. And they're going to say, too bad. We'll get you a new offensive coordinator and we'll see what Kyler Murray can do then. But with that being said, you will know if Kyler Murray is the guy after this season. And it can't be what he just did the season prior. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in to the Ben Garcia Show. It's so much fun to be able to come on here and talk some sports with you guys. Things have changed here in terms of new equipment, new microphone, new camera, and I appreciate you guys continuously showing support. You guys are the reason for it, although I apologize for the Ben Garcia Show banner down here at the bottom, not having the right dates today. Listen, I make a mistake. We all do. I will be better there. But do me a favor, follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. Tell me why you love me. Tell me why you hate me. Get in on the conversation, as well as do me a favor, like, share, subscribe. It is very helpful to continue doing this show. So until tomorrow at 7 a.m., I will see you guys on Wednesday.